What a week. Remember last week when I said I was going to have a video every day? Yeah, that didn't happen at all. It was a chaotic week. From Vercel ship to my keynote at Reactathon to the Qwik release to the hackathon with Clerk to all of the chaos in person and online. It was just a lot, and I didn't have time to film the videos I wanted to film. I'm going to do my best to summarize the week now, and I want y'all to let me know what the most interesting parts are so I can do deep dives on all of those throughout this coming week. Thank you guys for the patience. Sorry that this is about to be a shotgun blast of new content, but yeah, we have a lot to talk about. First and foremost, Vercel storage. I already kind of have a video on this stuff. I'm not going to talk about it too much more here. The TLDR is that Vercel added Postgres, KV, and kind of a file upload thing. It can only do up to 4 megabytes, and it's very, very early, which is kind of funny because we have our own upload thing that we also shipped the same day. So definitely check out the 2 videos we have for those. I'll put them in the description. Qwik also shipped their 1.0 release the same day, which is a little bold, but super nice to see. They have a lot of charts talking all about the benefits of resumability over hydration. I haven't talked about Qwik too much, but I've been talking with Mishko a lot. If y'all want to hear more about Qwik, let me know. On Tuesday, 2 big things happened. One was the Vercel Firewall and Secure Compute products. These are kind of enterprisey, but they're focused on helping developers integrate Vercel with private network things like a database that they don't want to have exposed over HTTPS over the internet. It's good for a lot of security compliance type stuff, and it's awesome to see Vercel beginning to embrace that. Not super exciting for what we talk about here, but cool to see regardless. Might help you push things over the edge at work. What I'm more excited about is the keynote that I did for Reactathon. I will put a link to the timestamp in the description. I'm sure there'll be an actual video of it out soon. The TLDR of that is I wanted to talk about the relationship between React and the React community and how it's going to push the whole new model forward. I loved the talk. I'm really proud of it and honored I got to speak at Reactathon, especially a slot as important as the keynote. And I had a great time at the event. It was super cool to be there and talk with everybody that I did. Wednesday had a bunch more awesome Reactathon talks, as well as 2 cool products from Vercel. One was visual editing in the previews, which is a beautiful hack. They don't detail in the blog post exactly how they do it, but it is really, really silly. The TLDR is they put hidden white spaces at the end of all the text so that they can detect which text element is coming from the CMS and which ones aren't. And by doing that, they're now able to have a dynamic edit button on all your preview builds where you can edit the content of the page, and that gets changed in your headless CMS like Sanity, which was their day one partner. The team was so excited to show this off to me early. I know they're going to be working really hard on continuing to iterate on this flow, and this might be the thing that pushes your content team over the edge if you work at a place that likes WordPress because of the marketing pages and the ability to edit things on their dashboards. Really cool to see Vercel understanding those work cases as well as the more developer-focused ones and trying to find a balance between the two. What I'm more excited about, though, is Vercel Spaces. The goal of Spaces is to make it easier to adopt and use all of these new technologies as your companies grow, not just for 5-person teams, but for 500-person companies. As someone who helped maintain a giant repo back when I worked at Twitch, the old code owners patterns just weren't good enough. If you need this, you know you need this. And as soon as you saw what they were doing, allowing for lint rule level code ownership, yeah, I am very excited. This is honestly the first I've seen someone really challenging GitHub's code workflow monopoly. And it's time that we rethink conformance and how we operate around big code bases with bigger teams. Really hyped on that release. But now we should talk about the big one. We should talk about Next.js 13.4. Funny enough, I actually already recorded a video on Next 13.4, and I really wanted to demo server actions, but due to a combination of one small mistake I made and the compiler making a big fuss out of it, I bombed really hard. And now I can click run server action, getting a 500 internal server error. Did they break this right before my demo? This demo, just pretend it worked, okay? It'll make you feel a lot better because I need to get this video out today. So I've been talking a lot with the team, funny enough, chatting with Sebastian a ton, and there's so much cool stuff going on in this release. Obviously, App Router is now stable. I have been shipping it for everything we've built for a few months now. It is so much nicer to work with. I can't go back to the old model. TurboPack is still early enough that I've yet to get it working on any of the projects I build, but it does seem incredibly promising. And just from seeing the difference in start times when I removed all the things that I needed that kept it from working, yeah, it's really fast. And the future with TurboPack is bright. But server actions is the big thing in here. If y'all watch my streams or keep an eye on my Twitter, you know I've wanted to talk about server actions for a really goddamn long time. You no longer need to write an API endpoint for your client to mutate things on your server. So before, if you wanted to create post for your blog post entries, you'd have to have an endpoint where you could post the JSON to it or a form data blob to it. You'd get that as a request on the server, parse it, do whatever you need to in your database after authenticating, and then send a signal to the user saying, hey, we're good. And then the user would have to refresh to see the new content. The old model was better in a lot of ways, where you just hit a button on a form, it would post that endpoint, and that would send you back either a redirect or new content. That's why I'm excited about what's going on in this example specifically. It kind of goes back to that old model of you write a server action here, where you increment something. You say use server, which tells React and the compiler, hey, this needs to be treated kind of like an endpoint. And when people call this function, it needs to behave in a specific way. In this case, it's not being treated like a traditional function. It's actually generating a post endpoint that this form action will post to the way old traditional forms worked. This allows you to do progressive enhancement to the more traditional way something like Remix would. You can even write functions outside of your bodies. In fact, I wouldn't recommend putting them in here. There's some really scary gotchas. I'll make a video about that goes really in depth soon because I'm terrified. But you can define them outside of your server components, and you can even define them in different files and import them in your client components, at which point they become a more traditional fetch endpoint, which is really, really nice. And so nice that we actually built a package around it at Ping because we were using this stuff early. And the way this package works is kind of similar to TRPC. To define an action using our package, Zact, you have a file that calls useServer at the top, which tells the React compiler, hey, everything in here that's exported needs to be an async function that I can convert into a fetch call. So you use server, you export an async function. In this case, you actually wrap the async function in our Zact helper. It takes one argument initially, which is z.object, which is your validator for what data you want that endpoint to receive. And this defines a helper that you then call an async function with. The type here gets inferred from your validator here, and you do whatever you need to in here as a mutation. I also wrote a custom hook, but it's entirely optional because, again, you can just import the action and call it like a promise. It's really nice, really fun workflow. We're going to add a bunch of stuff to this in the future, like middleware, authentication, and a lot of the other stuff you might need to make real production software using these patterns. But the server actions are still very, very early. There are a ton of weird gotchas. That package helps with some of them, but not all of them. They're alpha for a reason, and I'm excited to talk more about them in the future. Let me know what's the most exciting and the most confusing about the server action stuff, and I'll be sure to cover that in future videos where we go in depth on it. Clerk also had a small update for their Next.js app router stuff. They had stable support for all of their integrations in the app router. We've been using this for a while, both for UploadThing as well as MarkerThing. It's been really nice to work with. The new middleware syntax is also great, where you can just wrap anything with their new auth middleware helper and kind of be done, as well as exposing public routes this way. Previously, it was like 20 to 30 lines of code. Now it's literally 4. It's a nice change. Excited to see that. Clerk's been really nice to work with, and I've been super impressed with the product. Server components coming soon from what I know. I also have to shout out OrJ Dev. He's from the solid side of things, but man, in literally 4 to 5 days after we shipped UploadThing without any documentation of the internal workings, he was able to get it fully functioning inside of Solid.js and put out an open source package for solid UploadThing. Really cool to see somebody already get this working. I'm pumped. We're going to go out of our way to make sure that this is accessible to everybody, and we might even be open sourcing some stuff in the near future. So keep an eye on us. Fun stuff coming with UploadThing. Yeah, I hope that's everything. I mean, I know it's not. I'm positive I missed some stuff. It was an absolutely chaotic week, but I loved it. I got so much out of the last week. I am sorry I didn't have almost any videos about it then, but hopefully we can make up for that in the coming week with all the awesome content we have planned. Thank you all so much for checking this out. I couldn't be more hyped to build with all the things we talked about here. I have a feeling it's going to be an awesome year for web dev, and we're just getting started. If you want to hear more about any of what we talked about, check the description. If you want to go in depth on the UploadThing stuff, I'll pin the video for that in the corner. Really hyped on what we built there. We made it for a reason. Thank you as always. Peace, nerds.